yourself to. Welcome to Lunchtime Vinyasa. We're going to start in just a simple seated position. So you could do a cross-legged seating position. If you want to put one leg up and do a half lotus, you could do that. If you want to get fancy, rock a full lotus. I'm not going to stop you, but your knees might. So you're going to find a way to just get comfortable. Now for me, it's fairly simple. My pelvis allows me to sit on the floor and still have my spine mostly tall. But if it feels like you sort of lean backwards, you can elevate your hips. So you can sit up on a pillow or a block or a blanket. So I'm not going to specifically suggest any props today. I'm going to use some blocks. But if you don't have any yoga props, you'll still be okay. You'll be able to do the practice. Blocks just help extend the length of your arm. And for certain poses, that is very helpful. All right, so feel the weight in your sit bones or whatever might be in contact with the ground, and see if you can just create a situation where you're mostly even, and then relax. Try to let the shoulders kind of fall back a little bit or fall down, and notice your breath. Try to hold yourself too rigidly. Allow your face to relax, allow the eyes to soften, for a little bit more kindness to come to your facial features. Body breathe. You might notice little things. I'm noticing how one of my shoulders is slightly forward of the other. It might be slightly twisting to one side, so just paying attention to where you are right this moment. And then as you're breathing and noticing, little things might come into your awareness. Do that a couple more breaths. With your next exhale, just drop your chin forward. Try to keep the rest of your spine in a neutral position. We're going to roll the head up and over one shoulder, take it back, roll the head the other way. Sometimes the shoulders will kind of try to sneak up to help. See if you can keep your arms relaxed. We're going to do one more time around, but if there's any little spots along the way that you're feeling are a little extra tight, you can sort of linger for a moment in some of those places, just to get a little extra length there. When you're even on both sides and you come back to the center, you can float your head up. Check out the positioning of your neck. We're going to take the shoulders around in some circles. Try to feel the shoulder blades making a big circle from the center of the back out through to the armpit and back. And if you went a direction that feels like it's going the opposite, no worries, because we're going to do both. And then once your shoulder blades get down, bring them around the other way. Again, trying to feel a pattern of movement on that whole upper back. Notice that one shoulder blade is more compliant with this notion than another. All right, so letting the shoulders relax, we're going to lift them up as high as we can and then let them go back to that relaxed state. Lift them up as high as you can and let them go back to that relaxed state. A couple more. One more time. All right. So we're going to do a little movement for the wrists. We're just going to take the wrist and kind of circle them around. I'm trying to get whatever range of motion my wrists are willing to do. Go the other direction. I'm going to extend the arms out and then take hold of one hand. Now I'm going to use the top part of my carpal bones here, to kind of metacarpals, to kind of give myself a little stretch across the bottom part of the arm. Now for me, this feels best if my arm is really straight. And then take your thumb and stretch it out and bring it back a little bit as you're doing that. Sometimes the thumb is more or less willing to do that. And then drop the hand the other direction. You're going to try to go stretch across the top of the forearm. And for me, it helps to bend the elbow in this case. Give that area a little bit of extra love. And then take the opposite hand, same idea. So I'm going to grab up here near the knuckles, pull the thumb back, stretch out through that arm. Right-handed, so that one's a little more, you can feel it a little bit more. And then drop the hand and see, maybe it takes a little bend in the elbow to get that stretch. So we're going for something in this forearm area. Sometimes rotating the hand a little bit can help. All right, so then we're gonna release, stretch the fingers out, and then curl them in really tight, and stretch the fingers out. Curl them in really tight. I'm trying to get my thumb and my pinky finger as far away as possible, and then fill up the space with the other three fingers. Is kind of how I'm working with this. And then squeeze them in, and then one more time, trying to kind of fill up the space with all the fingers. Okay. Give everything a little bit of a shake. Hopefully that'll lubricate our wrist if they've been stuck over a laptop or a desktop computer keyboard for a while this morning. We're gonna come up to all fours. Now, if it helps, you can put your hands a little further out so the wrist is a little less of a bend. And then we'll work with the arms pretty fairly straight. You can bend the elbows here and there if you like. And try to get some sense that the upper back moves and then the lower back moves as we move through these little shapes. Some people call them cat and cow. Some people call them pelvic tuck and tilt. You can call them whatever you want. The name is only part of it. Now, once you've kind of gotten a little bit of a feeling that that up and down movement is nice, you can do this little curl to the side. And if curl hips and head to the right, hips and head to the left, send the rib cage the opposite way. Get some little side bend action going. All right. So then we're going to take ourselves into a child's pose with a little bit of a wide knee. I'm going to reach the arms out. Now, the question becomes, can I get my chest all the way to the floor? And if I do I feel something in the backs of my arms? And if the answer to that is yes, then you're cool. You're there. Another option would be to reach further forward, bring the hips up a bit more, and then see if the chest will go down to the ground. This can become quite intense in the upper back. So in order to get it into the upper arm for me, it's best if I use a couple blocks. So I put a block on the ground, put my elbows on the block, bend the elbow, and then let myself drop back towards child's pose. And then I have a nice stretch through the triceps and through my shoulders that feels nice and not abusive. And I can hold a little core support to keep it from becoming too low back tricky. So whatever version you're doing, maybe it's just child's pose. We'll take 2 more breaths. Now for me, the best way to come out is to send the hips forward so that I'm coming back towards that all fours position. And then take a moment and kind of rinse your arms out. Give each one a little bit of a shake. And hopefully, that's lubricated the shoulders in a way that we can come right into downward dog. And it'll feel nice. It's hard to say. We'll see how this goes. So I'm gonna kind of find my way up and down a little bit with my shoulders, just explore the shape. Some people are gonna find that the shoulders up near the hips feels better. Some people are gonna find somewhere a little closer to the neck feels better. Just get the shoulders on your back in a way that feels secure to you. And then move the heels up and down. And try to find a little bit of movement in the muscles in the backs of your legs. When you and downward dog are no longer having fun together, walk yourself into a forward bend. And once there, take your legs out kind of wide. So if I had a regular rectangular yoga mat, I would be a little wider than the edges of the mat probably. Now, bend your knees as much as you need to keep your pelvis and your low back happy with this notion. So we're gonna kind of surf over to the right and surf over to the left. We're gonna do that a couple times. You can keep your heart lifted or let your back be a little softer. Just don't do anything that feels really crummy in your low back or feels like it's ripping your hamstrings. Okay, so now we're gonna come over to one side. I'm gonna start with the left side. I'm gonna turn the toes a little more out to the side, and then I'm gonna work on straightening that leg and bending the opposite, and then come back to that knee being bent. Work towards straight. It might not go all the way straight. Doesn't have to, we're just feeling sensation. And then we're gonna come back to the center, move that guy in, move the other guy out. Wander over this way, bend that knee. See what happens as I straighten it a bit. Bend it. See what happens. Bend it. See what happens. And then I'm coming back to the center. All right, we're coming up halfway and then coming all the way up to standing. When you get there, give yourself a big stretch. Any way that, seems like a good idea to you. I like to do a little bit of movement. A little bit of a shimmy. All right. And then we're gonna find a mountain pose. So I'm gonna face this way, and you can face whichever way is appropriate for you and your viewing needs. Bring your feet so that it feels like they're hips distance apart. And mostly the toes are pointing forward. Sometimes I have to check. They like to slip out to the sides. And just by pointing them forward, it just puts me a little more on notice. Like I notice my hips, I notice my legs a little bit more. Keep the knees a tiny bit soft. Let the tailbone just kind of fall backwards. Use your core a little bit to create structure, but don't tighten up around the shoulder girdle. See if you can let the shoulders remain relaxed. You can feel kind of like the idea that you're going to grow a little taller from the crown of your head. You can do that, but without locking out your knees. So you just find this moment suspended between the earth and the sky. And then you can sweep your arms out to the side if you've got room. Otherwise, you can come straight up the middle. Nice big lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Now we're going to step back with the left foot so that we wind up in a lunge. Pause right there. I'm going to add the blocks at this point. So back heel is reaching back, front knee is reaching forward. I'm just going to pause. I'm noticing like tendencies to lift or drop my hip. Kind of working through the front leg and the back heel. Take a big breath, lift your right arm up and see if you can add, oops, hi buddy, add a little bit of a twist. Now my hip wants to drop and reconfigure, so I'm gonna try to hold that steady. Take one more big breath here. With your exhale, bring your hands back down to the floor. We're gonna step back into down dog. Once you're there, you can feel the difference between the right and left. See if it was pleasant. Come forward into a full plank or a modified plank. Draw the navel in, feel yourself lift through the core. You don't want to torture the shoulders, we don't want to torture the low back, just finding a plank that works best for you. Then we're going to lower down. Come into cobra. So use your back muscles, not your arms. Back muscles almost always will steer us the right way. Draw your hands back a little bit. Use your legs for anchors. Lift. Beautiful. Slide your hands back a little bit more. Use your legs for anchors. Lift. Come on back down. We're going to push ourselves back up and into our friend downward dog. We're going to take that right leg up. Exhale, bring the knee in towards your navel. Curl up. Inhale, stretch it back. See if that left heel will sink a bit if it's willing. Exhale, curl in. Inhale, stretch it back. Nice big long reach. And then step your right foot as far forward as it goes in one step. Bring your left foot up to meet it. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. And then come all the way to standing. Oh. And come back to center. Yesterday I turned all my plants around because they lean and like they smoosh themselves up against the window. So every month or so I turn around, but now we're having trouble having a room together. My normal place, I have to move over a little bit. You guys accommodate the living creatures in your life and find your way back to mountain pose. And can you feel the difference between the two sides of your body? And it's always good to check and see, do I like the way it feels? Is the work I'm doing pleasant? Does it feel helpful? And does it increase my well-being? So nice big breath reaching up. Let's do the other side. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up halfway. Lengthen out your back. We're going to step back with that right leg this time into the lunge shape. And again, I'm going to just hold steady with the lunge. And I play with it a little bit. I push the heel back. Let the knee drift forward a little, drift back. Just so I kind of experience the lunge. Try to see if I've got my hips even or if it feels like there's a little asymmetry there. And then we're going to add our twist, trying to hold my hips steady. Nice twist in the spine. Feel where that resistance happens at the pelvis. Take one more breath. And put both arms down. We're going to step it back into downward dog. Oh, I like that moment to feel that. And then come forward into plank. Choose the plank that's right for you. Lower down. Come into cobra. Come on back down. Slide your hands back. Cobra. Come on back down. Slide your hands back. Cobra. Draw your elbows back. Make room across your collarbones. Now we're going to take the arms out. Right shoulder forward, left shoulder goes back. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. One more time. Right shoulder forward, left one back. Left one forward, right one back. Come on back down. And then when you're ready, we'll head back to down dog. Need an extra moment? Take it. We're going to take the left leg up. Bring that knee in, curl up around it. Inhale, stretch back. Exhale, curl it in. Stretch it back. Oh, step it forward as far as it goes. And then the right one comes up. Exhale, fold. And come all the way to standing. Give yourself a big stretch. And then find your mountain pose and feel. I feel lighter, a little taller, a little bit lighter in the shoulder for sure. What do you feel? It's fun. It's fun to do. To see where the practice takes us. All right, I'm going to shift all my weight into my right leg. I'm going to bring my left leg up for a tree pose. Now, you can choose a different balancing pose if you like. I've got a little bit of an obsession with tree pose. It's my favorite. So we're gonna maybe do arms, or maybe the arms stay lower. Maybe you offer a little mudra, like a lotus mudra. See what that takes you. Sometimes it might disrupt your focus. So see what happens. It's fun to experiment. Take a nice big breath. Lift that left leg up. We're going to step back into warrior two. or maybe. We'll find our way in there one way or another. And then kind of adjust and just make sure the hips, the knees, and the legs feel like that's an appropriate position for your pelvis. We're always going to try to let the pelvis and the legs work together, right? So I don't want to try to torque my pelvis in a way that makes my knee uncomfortable. So we're always trying to find, like, how does this feel cohesive? Once it's cohesive, we'll come back for a little reverse warrior. Now, that front knee almost always wants to straighten out or buckle in. Let this hip stay where it was and work work with the reverse pose, including the maybe lack of balance that might be there. Lift a bit through this inner thigh. We're going to come over into a side angle pose. So I might drift this guy out a little wider because I feel like I can go a little bit wider in this pose, whereas the other one I needed more stability. And so you just feel things out. Every pose is a little different. We're going to transition this to triangle. So I'm going to bring myself back where I was, foot-wise. And lots of people ask wacky questions. Should my arm be on the inside? Should my arm be on the outside? Should I be floating my arm? They're all yes. Sometimes. Pick a triangle that you like. So lately I've been loving binding my top arm over my back. Gives my shoulder a little extra love. And then pushing against a block so I can engage my core a little more efficiently. But you can do it your way. You can look down at your big toe. You can look up at the ceiling. I like both. Whatever your drishti point is, find your gaze point there and then pause and pay attention to your breath and to the pose itself. Sometimes I go in and out so I can feel the trajectory of the movement taking me to the place that feels like the edge of the pose. Woo. All right, so now we're going to take this whole thing back up to the top. Now, if you want to step back into plank, lower down to your cobra, and then come back to dog, and then come to the top, you can. Throw that in as you like. Once you get up to the top, you'll pause in mountain pose and just feel. Some of us will get longer to feel than others. 2 more breaths. Can you feel the difference between the 2 sides of your body? Now sometimes we have one side that's a little harder to balance on, so this may be your easier side or your harder side. So we're going to shift the weight into the left leg, bring the right leg into tree or whichever version of balancing pose you want to do. Okay, ready? So we're going to try to pick this guy up and step him back into warrior 2. And again, try to find that positioning where it feels like you have a nice, cohesive sense. And every day for me, this changes by a little tiny bit. So some days my groins might be a little tighter or a little bit more sensitive. Some days my outer hip might be a little tighter, a little more sensitive. So I might adjust the foot placement based on what I'm feeling. So I'm going to come on back to reverse warrior, pause with my legs, let my hip stay where I had it, and try to feel that little extra bit of love right there on the side waist. And then we're coming into side angle, and again I might change the positioning so I've got a little more length to play with. You might not change your position. Just feeling things out. I like to, again, engage my core nice and deep. And then we're going to turn this into a triangle pose. Make little adjustments and try to find like a happy home for all of the parts of the body, including my poor little tight right shoulder. Little sweet shoulder. Breathe. Try to feel the pose. The pose is a tool, not an end result, or not a goal. The goal is to be present. Take one more big breath. Now we're going to release the pose with the exhale, and then we're going to step back into down dog, where you can pause for a moment and feel. Need a little bit longer dog here. All right, yogis. Bring yourself back to that child's pose. Nice white knees. This time, just the child's pose. You can put your hands underneath your forehead or around your back. feel your body in this moment. And then bring ourselves around to a seated position. This time we're going to do something symmetrical with the legs. So I'm going to work with this kind of loose butterfly, kind of half butterfly, half bound angle, half star pose or tortoise pose. The tortoise takes my legs out quite a big diamond. The bound angle is supposed to bring the feet like right up against your hips if it's available to your knees. I like somewhere in the middle. But you could do this, or you can do this with your legs. Any of those options are good. Just make sure they're doing the same thing on both sides. And then I lean forward and lift my hips on each side because it allows a little bit more tilt of my pelvis without the resistance of the floor. Sometimes I have to do it 2 or 3 times just to get all the way around. So I want my pelvis to come forward. I'm going to keep my spine in a kind of neutral position for this one. So it's going to go up, not down. I'm going to go up with my torso, not down. So I'm going to use my ankles to kind of hold on to so that I can feel myself kind of lengthen through my back. It's almost like I'm trying to do a little baby cobra here, but not quite that extreme. Now you can round yourself over if you want. If you round your back in a forward bend, it's best to do that in a relaxed way rather than to try to pull yourself forward. You can do some unintentional damage to your spine by forcing your way into a rounded back forward bend. So let it be more of a natural state that happens with gravity. This one I'm actively working my core and stretching myself out. We're going to turn this into my favorite pose. That's right, friends, we're going to turn this into a boat pose. Now my favorite boat pose is the one that bears do. So I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but bears will take hold of their paws and then they'll take their legs out wide and try to hold. So if the paws is too far away, you can use your shins, that works better. Lift up nice and tall. So we're going to try to create that nice tall spine and see if we can stay balanced. If you let your back around here, you're going over, friends. It gets roly-poly. Now see if you can let go and still hold it. Oh, your quads might have to work. Bring the feet together. Come on back down. Give yourself a little washing machine. Oh, that feels so nice. Yogis, come back to where we started in your cross-legged sitting position or lotus or whatever you were in. Take a moment. Close your eyes if you care to. And just feel your body. Come back home to the breath. And notice if a change occurred. Does it feel different to be in your body right this moment than it did at the beginning? Do you feel anything? You might not. So this act of doing this actually, there's a scientific word for it. It's called interoception. And so when we are like trying to feel, what does my body feel like? Or what does it feel like to breathe? What we're doing is we're using nerve pathways that send information from the body to the brain. And all of those nerve pathways are responsible for our parasympathetic response, our ability to relax. So when we practice sending information from the body to our conscious mind, we're also reinforcing neural pathways that help us relax and be calm and get steady. And so even if you don't feel anything, keep doing the trying. Keep trying to feel something, see what's there. Eventually, these signals will start to connect better. If you've never done it, or you just don't do this very often, eventually they will find you, and you will suddenly understand what I mean. So let's take a big breath together, and a big deep sigh. Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste. Welcome to your post-yoga state.